What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Good News Collective. You look nice. Did you do something to your hair? At any rate, to kick off today's devotional, gotta know who here watching is a horror movie kind of person. You know the kind of person I'm talking about, right? You know, the new horror movie comes into theaters, you gotta go see it, you gotta go get your thrill rides, you gotta do your Halloween horror nights, all of that. Personally, I dabble a little bit here and there in horror movies. You know, around Halloween time, always have to watch the Scream movies, those are a classic. But I do know one person that is 100% not a horror movie person, and that is my mom. I actually recall in the past, there were certain times when a horror movie would come on TV, and instead of watching through the movie, seeing all the scares here and there, she'd actually take the remote and skip all the way to the very end of the movie just to see what the ending was. Now, I know that might not make a lot of sense to you horror movie buffs, right? She's missing out on all the scares. She's missing out on the fun of a horror movie. But for those of you out here who aren't really horror movie people, it actually makes a lot of sense, right? Let me give you an example. Let's use an older horror movie. That way I don't spoil too many of you. So, who here has seen the old horror movie Alien with James Cameron, Sigourney Weaver, all that stuff? If you haven't, you definitely should check it out. It's really, really cool. But spoiler alert if you haven't, the basic premise follows a group of scientists and researchers as they're on this big spaceship out in the middle of nowhere. And at one point in the movie, they find kind of an abandoned planet, they land on there, and while they're there, an alien kind of sneaks on board their ship. Now, over the course of the movie, you see just about everything you'd expect in a classic horror movie. You see the jump scares, you see a whole bunch of people biting the dust, you see a lot of screaming. But let me run a scenario by you. Let's say, the movie has come on TV, you have your handy-dandy remote in hand. What if, instead of watching through the movie, you decide to skip right over all the scary bits, right to the end? Now, at the end of the movie, and this is pretty big spoilers by the way, the main character, played by Sigourney Weaver, manages to get onto an escape pod and leaves the ship, with the alien following behind her. But right before it can get to her, she ejects it out of the pod and she leaves it there floating in the cold vastness of space. And she survives. Woo! Big whoop! So, now that you know the movie has a happy ending, doesn't it make watching the rest of it a little bit easier? Right? You still get the jump scares, you still get the characters biting the dust, you still get a lot of screaming, but you know that in the end, the main character survives, right? Good guys win, bad guys lose. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, for me, who's a little bit of a movie nerd, sometimes it can kind of feel like parts of my life are lifted straight out of a movie. Some parts of our lives might seem like a comedy, right? Maybe we're kind of coasting through, it's a good time, we're laughing, having fun with our friends. Overall, it's a pretty good experience. Other chapters of our lives can be a bit tougher. Maybe there's a lot of pains and hurts. Some chapters of our lives, in fact, can seem so anxiety-filled and stress-inducing that we might literally feel like we're living in a horror movie. And this is the hard truth that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. For all of you, anybody who's been living in this world for any amount of time, you already know this, but in this world, there is no such thing as a trouble-free life. Even the Christian life isn't trouble-free. Let's take, for example, Jesus' disciples, really big role models of faith. Now, in John chapter 16, right before Jesus gets arrested, he gives them a little bit of a forewarning about what's to come. He tells them that a time is coming for them of mourning and for grief. Even after his resurrection, their lives are by no means easy. Jesus calls them to a life where they are going to preach his gospel. But there's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of suffering. They're hated by almost everybody. They're driven out of town after town. A lot of times they're arrested and beaten, and a lot of them even killed. The lives the disciples lived certainly was not a trouble-free life. And ours won't be either. But there is good news for us. No matter what season of life you're in, easy or hard, we know how the story ends. In John chapter 14, Jesus says, "My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am." That's the good news for you here today. The story of your life has a happy ending. I don't know what season or chapter of your life that you're in. I don't know the kinds of things that are giving you happiness or the kinds of things that seem to be sucking it all away. But it's going to be okay. In the end, good wins and evil loses. And if you accept the gift of salvation that God is offering you, your ending will be with Him in eternal paradise. John 16, verse 33 says, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace." In this world, you will have trouble. But take heart. I have overcome the world. And for those of you who seem to be in a chapter of life where things are going good right now, I want to tell you a story from a preacher I heard recently. Now, if I remember correctly, a few years ago, him and his family wanted to take a vacation to the beach. Now, while they were on the way there was a little bit of rain going on around the beach. So, when they pull into the parking lot, there's some puddles here and there. Now, this is an important detail, he said, that between the beach and the parking lot where they are, there's a really big sand mound. So the people who are in the parking lot can't quite see the beach from where they are. If you want to see the beach, you got to climb over the sand mound and make your way down there. While this preacher has gotten out of his car, he's going through the trunk, unloading all his beach stuff, all his blankets and stuff. Well, his young daughter, she decides to make herself busy. She has all these puddles out there in the parking lot, and so she's jumping around there, kind of having herself a great time. By the time the family has finished unloading out of the car and they're ready to go to the beach, well, the funny thing is, the daughter, she doesn't want to leave. And the preacher is almost kind of dumbfounded, right? He knows that there's something much better for her right over that hill. If she's willing to leave those puddles in the parking lot and climb over the hill with them, she's going to be able to enjoy the beach much better than anything she had in the parking lot. Now, the reason I bring this up is that for those of you living in a good season, a happy chapter of life right now, there is a happier ending still coming for you. Don't close yourself off and just focus on the puddles that are right in front of you. God has something much, much better in store for you. It's right over the hill. The paradise we will get to experience with God is going to be much better than anything we have ever experienced before. So today, for those of you who are struggling, who are tired and in pain, hold on. It's going to be okay. And for those of you experiencing a good, happy, exciting season of life right now, those of you who are enjoying God's blessings for you, you ain't seen nothing yet. Your happy ending is coming. And that's pretty good news.